Hi, I'm Dr. Tuccio, the chart doctor, and this is episode 5, where we talk about the profile view and how it's not to scale. The way we're going to do that is we're going to first start with a charting error that's incidental to the profile view not being to scale. And we're going to do that in Racine, Wisconsin. Here you can see in Racine, Wisconsin, the ILS-4, you can first notice the glide slope's unusable below 837 feet. And that caught my eye, but then what more so caught my eye was this glide slope feather. And you see the glide slope feather, well, it sort of runs you into the ground. It implies that you're going to come up short of the airport or the runway. When I reported this to the FAA, they acknowledged it's an error. The glide slope feather is in fact supposed to be where you'd expect at the intersection of this black icon, the airport icon or the runway icon. Well, let's take a look. We're going to dissect this a little bit, and it's going to lead us to a discussion of the profile view not being to scale. Well, what is that little black thing, first of all? Well, it's called the airport profile. I think of it, and I think most of us think of that as the runway. But in fact, if you think about it on a circling approach, well, it's not the runway. It's something called the airport profile. And it's really meant to show the elevation of the airport in a not to scale way relative to the rest of the profile view. And it's called the airport elevation line. So that's our first takeaway, that we sort of use this error to sort of build our knowledge. Well, first you can see here now when we start to compare an approach, where we start to talk about the profile view not being to scale, well, the first thing, of course, you see is that the glide slope feather does connect to the airport icon. But now you start to see they're not to scale. Look at both of these. They're both 3-degree glide slopes, but they certainly don't look the same, do they? But, well, they're 3-degree glide slopes. They ought to be the same. When we overlay them, you can really see it really stands out that they're not to scale. This is not a charting error. I mean, we've already talked about the feather where it doesn't intersect right. But aside from that, it's not a charting error. It's something you need to know as a pilot, sort of a theme we've made throughout this series. Well, let's see this more dramatically. When we come here to Telluride, look what we see at Telluride. We see one heck of a steep-looking approach, don't we? And certainly it is. There's no question that at Telluride you have to lose quite a bit of altitude from the final approach fix to land on the order of over 3,500 feet from the final approach fix. But from the final approach fix to the MDA is only an 80-foot change of altitude. And it certainly doesn't look that way from the way it's depicted. It's just a heck of a lot more like that. But the FAA, because this is not to scale, this is how they show it. And so again, this is something you need to know as a pilot. So let's just recap, because we covered a lot in this short video. First, we talked about the airport profile, the airport icon. That's not really the runway icon, and we led to that from the error that we talked about. Then we saw that the glide slope feathers are not to scale, and then we saw in general with Telluride that the profile view is not to scale. Well, I'm Dr. Tuccio, the chart doctor, and I hope you enjoyed episode 5, where we talked about the profile view not being to scale.